What is civilization? I don't know. I can't define it in abstract terms yet, but I think I can recognize it when I see it, and I'm looking at it now. If I had to say which was telling the truth about society, a speech by a Minister of Housing or the actual buildings put up in his time, I should believe the buildings. But this doesn't mean that the history of civilization is the history of art. Far from it. Great works of art can be produced in barbarous societies. In fact, the very narrowness of primitive society gives their ornamental art a peculiar concentration and vitality. At some time in the 9th century, one could have looked down into the River Seine and seen the prow of a Viking ship coming up the river. Looked at today, it's a powerful work of art. But to the mother of a family trying to settle down in her little hut, it would have seemed less agreeable, as menacing to her civilization as the periscope of a nuclear submarine.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Saladino. It's funny. PowellWorld reminds me of Pokemon Go, which, duh, of course. But no, I don't mean because it's Pokemon with guns. I mean the success and popularity of PowellWorld reminds me of Pokemon Go, the game itself. I remember Pokemon Go came out of nowhere for me. 2016 was an insane year. It was Slaughterhouse 2016 as far as celebrities went. And in my personal life, it was weird and messed up, and friends and mutuals on Twitter, a lot of us were like, this is a weird year. And it was funny when Pokemon Go came out because I remember people on Twitter especially saying, it's so wholesome to see all these people coming together to play this game. I remember coworkers would go outside during lunch and break to play the game, waiting for the bus, playing the game, people on the bus playing the game. And there was no huge backlash against it. A lot of people just really hyping the game up. And it was a hype that I enjoyed seeing without actually having to be a part of it. Like, no interest in Pokemon whatsoever, nothing against it, but it was still fun to see people really liking this game. And now it's funny to see all the people attacking PowellWorld. And PowellWorld is a game that I'm excited about only, again, from the afar. The big difference, I think, between something like PowellWorld or Pokemon Go, Pokemon itself as a brand is the difference, where people weren't going to attack Pokemon Go because everybody knows Pokemon. It's a cultural icon. It's a big league AAA brand, right? With PowellWorld, it's this indie company. They're an upstart company, but also with Pokemon Go, it's a mobile game. PowellWorld is supposed to be, quote unquote, a real game. So with mobile games, more women play mobile games, and people don't actually take mobile games seriously, despite the fact that when the media wants to defend ugly women in games and body positivity in games and all this woke stuff that's usually associated with women and feminism, they always trot out this BS stat that more women play games than men, which isn't true. They play more mobile games than men, but they don't play adventure games and fighting games and superhero games more than men do. And the women who do play these games, they play it because it's something that they're actually interested in. They don't play it to see themselves. If that was the case, they wouldn't play it. If they needed to see themselves, they wouldn't play it. Or another way to look at it, maybe these women who play these games want to see beautiful women in these games and play as these beautiful women because they see themselves as beautiful women. Not to go off on a red pill tangent, but that was one of the things that you would see a lot with red pillars when they talked about stuff like, street interviews. The guy would ask a woman, how would she rate herself? And for the most part, most women would say that they were 10s. So the whole body positivity thing and the whole make women ugly so that women will feel intimidated by a sexy woman in a game, is a lot of that is BS. It's really just to combat the male gaze. And one of the main reasons why PowellWorld is being attacked, because it's considered a real game. It's on console. It's on PC. It's a real game that mainly men will play. Even if women play it, they don't count the women. They're only thinking about the men. And PowellWorld doesn't have this ambition of being anything more than a game. It's exciting gamers as a game. People are having fun with it. All kinds of people are streaming it and talking about it. At least they were this past week. At the time of this recording, it's over the weekend. Maybe things will simmer down this next week. But when it blew up, when PowellWorld came out and it blew up, immediately devs and the media attacked it for the dumbest reasons. You got this guy who worked on not just Suicide Squad, killed the Justice League, but he also worked on the quote-unquote remaster of Naughty Dog's Last of Us 2, Electric Boogaloo. And it's funny. So this guy he deleted these tweets, but this guy is literally saying that the devs of PowellWorld made the game nefariously. A guy who's worked for Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog has chased off so many of their best developers because of The Last of Us Part 2. And this guy is talking about something nefarious going on with, a relatively small budget indie game. Thing is, PowellWorld is everything that people who don't like games and gamers hate about games and gamers. It's funny. That may sound like some kind of Buddhist cone, but I think at the heart of the controversy and the backlash to this game is that there are a lot of people who got into gaming and games media, not because they actually love games, but because they thought it would be a stepping stone to Hollywood, bigger journalism, and as the medium of video games got more and more popular, right, became more and more of the everyday consciousness of regular people, more people wanted gaming to be like movies, and they started talking about it as an art form. So you have people who want to defend games against charges that it's not art. They want to defend it against being this lowbrow hobby. Like, you can look at a mobile game, you can easily dismiss it as just this time waster. It's just pointless. It's just something that you do while you're waiting on the bus. But with games, they really want to make it like an art form. Like, Naughty Dog is one of the main reasons why Sony has been doing so terribly lately with as far as they don't have games coming out, because everything now has to be game of the year. Everything has to be this ponderous, heavy masterpiece. And you can't just make games like PowellWorld anymore. And that's like, people are angry and jealous at the fact that it's very simple what gamers want. They want good games. You can give us a Last of Us. You can give us a God of War. You can give us Ghost of Tsushima. But we don't need that all the time. You could just give us PowellWorld and that would be great. You don't have to spend $315 million on a Spider-Man game. Do everything, pretty much, what the players told you not to do. You double down on giving us MJ missions. Not only do you give us more MJ stealth missions, but you make MJ more important to the game, and you make her even uglier than she was in the first game. You do these things, and you act like you're doing it because you're creating high art. You don't want to make a superhero game. You want to make a game where a black deaf woman goes around town spraying BIPOC slogans all over the place. And that's supposed to be important. That's supposed to be high art. I remember when Roger Ebert used to do this thing. He was like one of the main people who was talking about games not being an art form and how it was just something that you play to beat. And people were like, that's not true. And they would bring up like Shadow of the Colossus, which I think, what was that movie? Rain? I don't know. What was with Adam Sandler and Don Cheadle? I think it was Rain on Me or Rain Over Me or something like that. They talked about Shadow of the Colossus. They talked about Journey. They talked about The Last of Us. And they kept telling Ebert, you need to play these games. Well, Ebert's too old to play these games. He's not going to get anything out of these games. My issue was never making a big deal of games as being art. Because, of course, games are art. It's not whether or not it's an art. It's how people define art. So if you think that PowellWorld is just a game where, it's taken influences or ripped off bigger brands for some reason, and you don't like the idea that it doesn't have a special story to tell, that it's not uplifting a race, or it's not worried about gender, then you won't see that as art, even though there's a lot of creativity and artistry that goes into it. Even if it's not on the same level of Tolstoy, it's still art. You don't have to go out of your way to defend games by denigrating PowellWorld. And I don't think that, I think that's part of it, because with the dev at Naughty Dog, who was like, there's something nefarious going on with this game. I can't prove it, but I just feel it. I have dev intuition. And some other little random chick with purple blue hair. And I was like, what is it with these people? You could see them coming from a mile away when they have pronouns or flags in their bios. They have multicolored hair. You can see them. This other woman, yeah, you're right. I know exactly what you mean. That woman, she locked her, she locked her Twitter up completely as soon as people start getting on her ass. And then the other dude, the guy who started it, he deleted those tweets and then wiped out the fact from his bio that he even worked with Naughty Dog and the people at Suicide Squad, Rocksteady. But something about that is so funny. I always say Naughty Dog has ruined Sony's first-party studios with their obnoxious, pretentious attitude when it comes to games. And one of the funny things was when somebody called this guy out for what he said about PowellWorld being nefarious, somebody actually said, to defend him, Naughty Dog makes the greatest games in the world. So of course, a dev who works with Naughty Dog would feel offended that this low, mid-tier slop of a game, PowellWorld, would be made. Like he was just his integrity, his sense of honor, and the greatness of art that Naughty Dog produces made him feel that PowellWorld shouldn't even exist. And it's like this person might have been trolling, but you have to be a sociopath to troll on that level, to write something so stupid as to say, well, he worked with the greatest developer of all time. Of course, he's offended by the mere existence of PowellWorld because PowellWorld's not even really a game. It's not art at all. It's like, come on. But that's the mentality that's been fostered and created by particularly Druckmann and Naughty Dog. And it's been passed through. You can see their terrible effect on Guerrilla Games. You can see it on Insomniac. You can see it at Santa Monica. You can see their terrible influence. You can just listen to people standing for Naughty Dog saying stupid things like that, oh no, they make high art. Like Druckmann himself said, we don't consider our games to be fun. We don't want them to be fun. Again, we want this to be War and Peace. We want this to be Tolstoy. We don't want this to be fun. We don't want to take your feedback about what you want and don't want. We're going to spend $300 million on a game like this. And if you don't like it, you're a bad person. But we're doing great work here. But that's just the thing, you know. There are too many narcissists in AAA games. Too many obsessed with the idea of being a filmmaker, a great artist, rather than just a game developer. You know, all of them want to be Kojima. And even Kojima seems to be falling off with his Hollywood obsession. Thing is, they hate PowellWorld because PowellWorld proves that you just have to be a game. That none of this is rocket science. That lifting up marginalized voices and being trans friendly has nothing to do with gamers. Not even gamers from any of those communities care about this stuff like that. Like the PowellWorld CEO said, I don't have a creative vision. I just want to make a game people like. AAA devs want to appeal to people who want to see themselves. The PowellWorld devs want to appeal to gamers.